I had a little glitch on my computer, so I'm just going to add this in the beginning. The subject is rapists were my lovers, enabled by my mother. And she brainwashed me into believing that, and manipulated me into believing that it wasn't their fault. They loved me too much and would have me forgive them so they could do it again. And I'm waking up with terrible nightmares at 82, and I'm hoping that by talking about it, this will stop some of the nightmares. But I'm in flashbacks every morning. I'm waking up in these flashback nightmares. And it started when I was 16 years old, but it can happen at any age. Sandra was raped by her father and then raped by her, who became her husband, and she never learned the difference, and she never had a man love her until she became so disabled that sex was not part of the relationship. So just to add this, a subject that needs to be discussed by psychologists, and young girls need to learn this in school. They have to deal with this in a way that's family friendly, but we have to start training young girls that the difference between sex is like eating, it's not love, and rape of any nature is not love. And he knew what had been done to me, and he tried to warn me and explain to me, but I didn't understand. I was so brainwashed by my mother and the society around me. And I want to talk about it because this isn't the kind of rape where when I was held hostage and brutally tortured. I'm talking about boyfriends who manipulate and seduce and then rape you and then call it love. And when I was a teenager, it was so common. 3 of my girlfriends were forced by their mothers to marry the rapist. That's right. And the 4th one, Lena, is a whole other story, but it explains the same thing. What is wrong with these women? Where did they learn that this is okay? Lena was from southern Italy, Calabrese, and she was held hostage by a mafia, and he was part of the mafia man, and she was very beautiful, and he wanted her as his wife. And the only way that he could make sure that that would happen was to rape her, and then she was forced to marry him. And believe it or not, something like 25 years later, she had 3 sons, and they helped her escape from their father. And I happened to meet them in Wasaga Beach, and she told me her story. And we shared the nightmare of men who claim to love us, but are rapists. And she went on to a very happy life and met a young man that was in love with her, and her sons worshipped him. But I didn't ever experience what the difference between sex by someone who wants to give you pleasure and sex by someone who is using your body to masturbate with, literally. And a young man in 1989 in New York said, I want to show you just once what sex is supposed to be like. But sex has nothing to do with love. He said, you could live in a celibate relationship that's very loving. He said, just remember, anybody who uses your body to masturbate with, cut them off. And I did. And the last time I was raped, I was 52. But I didn't feel anything because it was wham, bam, thank you, Sam. And he didn't even get inside of me. And it was so fast. It was like seconds. And he was a policeman that I had known for years. But these men come in all colors and all sizes and all clothes and all uniforms and whatever. But what I want to talk about is that I hope someday women are trained to understand any man that uses your body to masturbate with, because basically that's what they're doing, or to force you to marry them or whatever, that's not love. Dump him. And the other problem is limerick chemistry. You need to know that you could feel that chemistry with a serial killer. It's like a drug. It doesn't mean anything. It's not love. It's just chemicals. And I don't have the scientific understanding, and I don't think scientists do either. But there's this chemistry that you can walk into a room, and some people just have it in spades, like Elizabeth Taylor, for instance. She could walk into a room and the whole room was in love with her. And the camera loved her. And this chemistry would just emulate. And of course, millions were in love with her. We won't even go there. But what I'm trying to explain is that that's just chemistry. And sometimes you can use it for good, which she did, which Elizabeth Taylor did. I met her and she was a wonderful woman. But I was 16 years old, and he drugged me and raped me and said, now you're going to have to marry me. When I came to, and I said, F you. And I took myself to the hospital, and what was worse is that the hotel manager knew what he was doing to me. I'm 16 years old. And I took a fit at the hospital, and I said, if you don't flush me out and I get pregnant, I'm going to do a lawsuit. Well, interesting that they were so dumb that they were scared into doing that, and they flushed me out so I didn't get pregnant. But you can't do lawsuits in Canada. And if you try, you lose all your money and the lawyers will rip you off. Don't even go there. But yes, I spent more than half my life not understanding because my mother manipulated me. Even when in the last one, in 1983, held hostage and tortured by a violent rapist and a maniac. And she manipulated me into going back to him. That's how sick these women are. But they're common. And what's worse is that I researched this because I never understood what the hell was going on. And my mother didn't learn it from her parents. Yes, she was raped by a drunk and got pregnant, and they supported her, and they cut that man off, and the boyfriend that left her in the shack with the drunk, they cut him off. There's no way they wanted her to have anything to do with either one, and both wanted to marry her, and they said no. So my grandparents were really sane. And I don't know how come my mother was so insane. I really don't know. But she was. And she was common. So where did she learn it? I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I did. But I thought maybe if I talk about this a little bit, I'll stop having these flashback nightmares. Because it's... I wake up with them. And I keep seeing young girls being manipulated to believe that date rape is by somebody who loves you and loves you so much they can't control themselves. And it's not true. They're selfish, and they're not going to make a good husband, and they're not going to make a good father. Dump them. They're garbage. That's what they are, is garbage. And some men are so immature, they never learned to treat a woman with the kind of respect that she deserves and to give her pleasure. And that young man in New York, he said to me, I'm going to show you the difference. Sex is not love. It's no different than eating a great meal. It's a separate thing. But it can be beautiful and it can be with pleasure. And you make sure it's safe sex. You don't pass a disease and you don't make the person pregnant. And I'm not going to go into details, but he also showed me how to masturbate to give myself pleasure if I wanted to. And mostly I don't. I just prefer not to, but I'm not saying anybody shouldn't. But and there are women who believe that if you masturbate, it'll cure disease. Where do they get these ideas? Anyway, I don't want to go too long on this subject, but I do think psychologists and psychiatrists need to get themselves an education, and young girls need to be taught in school that rape is not love. That's all I can tell you. And I hope that someday society will deal with these issues properly. There is a big difference between the maniac who is violent, he should be shot, and the men who basically seduce you and rape you on a date because they love you. Because they love you. No, they don't. They don't love anything. It's just some kind of control thing. I don't know what it is. I don't even want to know what it is. But it's wrong. Definitely wrong. But there are good and decent men out there that will love you, whether you have sex or not, and take care of you. And no matter what happens to you, if you're in a wheelchair, they will still love you. It's not about sex. Okay. Hopefully someday society will grow up and train daughters. And mothers who support rapists to their daughters, I have no word for you. You are sick. Over and out.